What's good, G's? MJ, aka Victor here, and we're going to give you a little behind the scenes on the documentary. So, it does take a while to edit this stuff and to put these things together. You just can't shoot random stuff. So, as someone that shoots, edits, does music, and all of this stuff, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of different hats to wear, if you will. But anyway, I know you guys don't want to see me, you want to see Charleston, and we're going to get to that. But I wanted to kind of give you some behind the scenes stories.
So where the camera niggas go? There they go. Y'all, this behind the scenes footage, this family. So yeah, this something the internet don't get to get.
I'm one of the quote unquote camera niggas. And for the record, I don't call myself nigger. I don't call any other black people nigger, but I understand, or nigga. But from the ghetto, and I understand the terminology, and I understand that's how people speak. And I understand it's not any ill intent in using that word and referring to me or people of my color, right? So go ahead and get that out the way. But anyway, because you're going to hear nigger and nigga a lot, right? Charleston says it every other word, damn near. Here's the story. So we pull up on Charleston, met Charleston through a friend of mine named Casey, right? And we'll kind of show you some footage when we got to Dallas-Fort Worth. The first person we pulled up on was Joe Blow. And we went to Joe Blow's crib, which is called the Continental, right? Kind of based on the John Wick Continental. Anyway, so we pull up there, Joe Blow, he's doing this workout, and he was the first person we interviewed. So we got to Fort Worth the night before, and I kind of show you some footage of where we stayed, got some drone footage of that. Drone was acting up, and yeah, I fly a drone as well. And anyway, that's a long story, but I almost crashed that joker, and we'll show you that. Anyway, pull up on Joe Blow, and first thing I see is the dog, right, barking. And that's an intimidating, Leo is an intimidating dog, but he was cool after a while after he saw he wasn't no issue. Anyway, so we're there talking to Joe Blow, and he's calling Charleston, and he calls Pops on the phone, and then Charleston shows up, and we kind of get into that. So kind of showing you some behind the scenes footage from that. And then that same night, we ended up, after we shot Joe Blow and when we shot Pops, and then he had a birthday party that he was going to. And that's where he says this.
So where the camera niggas go? There they go. Y'all, this behind the scenes footage, this family. So yeah, this something the internet don't get to get. It's going to Netflix too.
And the interesting thing about when he said that is we were going for a little bit because he's at a birthday party, he's on live, he's doing his thing and all of this stuff, right? So we're just kind of letting him do his thing. He's not talking to us, and he's just kind of interacting with the party there. But as you can see in the footage, who happens to walk by? Matthew knows. And yeah, I misspelled it the first time, one extra T. That's what happens when you're doing everything. You do make mistakes, and I make mistakes, right? So I'm trying to make as few as possible. Anyway. Misspelled his name, but we happened to catch him walk by, and we didn't see that until afterwards. Casey didn't catch that until afterwards. That's the other camera nigger, or camera guy, I should say. I'm playing on the word nigger anyway, because you're gonna hear it all the time. But again, I don't say it that often, but forget all that. So yeah, we catch him coming by, and as we were just set the cameras up, and we're kind of just recording, their whatever they were doing and talking and eating or whatever. We went out and got a beer. So I go out and get a beer and just kind of, I'm sitting next to this guy, and he's asking me who is, who's that party, who's in that party. And I didn't know who he was, and I said, Charleston White. And he was like, well, who's Charleston White? And then I'm thinking to myself, and I didn't know who this guy was. I'm talking to him. He's sitting there eating a salad, and he looked like he's got his little suit on and all this stuff, right? So he's sitting there eating his salad, and I'm thinking, like, how do I explain Charleston White to a stranger in a few minutes? Not even a few minutes. This is a fleeting conversation while I'm waiting on the guy to get the beer. So I don't know exactly what I said, but I say something about community activists and, trying to reduce gang violence and things of that nature. And he's like, all right, that's good. Well, when you go back in there, you tell them that Matthew Knowles said hi, and I was like, oh. And I knew his face was familiar, but, I wasn't looking all up and down on the man's face like that. But I said, oh, okay, cool, Matthew Knowles. Okay, yeah, Beyonce's dad, got you. And I was like, all right. So, yeah, I'll definitely tell him. And then we ended up having a little more conversation, and then he was like, well, you know, I'll come in there and then I'll tell him myself. I was like, hey, that's even better. So then I pull my camera out, and then we start to, you know, kind of record him walking there and get that footage, and he gives them his flowers, as Charleston says, and they do their thing. So that was a cool moment. But part of the documentary is showing those moments. I'm just kind of giving you a little behind the scenes on that. Another thing that you probably didn't see and probably don't care about is I ended up going back and talking to him, because he was actually, Matthew Knowles, he was actually there, he says, to get some inspiration for a speech that he was going to give the next day. He's a motivational speaker. And we got to talking, and I ended up going back in there, kind of introduce myself and kind of let him know what I was doing. And ended up giving them one of these vikterbang bracelets, and the name stands for victory over noise. And we talked about spirituality and all of this stuff. And one of the things I mentioned was how I've been underground for a while and I'm starting to come up, and how when you build a skyscraper, the first place that you dig is down, right? Because the deeper the foundation, the higher up you can build, but you don't see the foundation below, you just see what's on top. And he liked that idea, and then he also added on that building cranes in the sky, you know, as far as people wanting to build on top but don't have a foundation. And he mentioned that in his speech, I believe, or he was going to incorporate that in his speech. I haven't seen the speech yet, but I'll definitely take a look at it. It's a lot going on. There's a lot going on then. Still editing this stuff because I'm trying to get it to a good point for you guys.